Hey, this is Notser, and this is a look at Ranked Season, or a preview or a discussion. I just want to talk about it because I hate that some people act like, oh yeah, there wasn't a Q&A where a Wargaming employee confirmed that it's Tier 6. Oh yeah, we don't have our Ranked, our old last season rank, showing up in the client right now at 6.6. No, none of that's happening. No, it's happening, and it's going to be Tier 6. So what does that mean? Well, that means we're not going to have the Belfast, the Scharnhorst. We're not going to have any of those premiums, any of the Tier 7s to deal with. And I'm ecstatic that we don't have to deal with the Belfast, because the Belfast really ruins the game by having radar and smoke on one platform. I don't have a problem with a Tier 7 having radar. I don't have a problem with a Tier 7 cruiser having smoke. I have a problem with any ship using both of those at the same time. It takes away all of the skill. You can sit in your smoke and quite literally spot for yourself. And in the Tier 7 ranked season, it was extremely passive. Sit at the corner of the island, sit and smoke, use radar, wipe out, rinse and repeat. I really disliked it, and I formed a anti-smoke strat with the Shiratsuyu. And any destroyer that had torpedoes that could outrange, or at the very least barely outrange the radar, or just inside. And it worked out pretty well. Obviously, I got rank 1, didn't really have a problem. Teams did a good job supporting each other. I couldn't complain. I'm one of those players that I really just brute force my way through it. I'm not willing to accept a passive meta, and I'm not going to accept it at Tier 6. Now, is that going to happen? Well, let's look at the Tier 6 ships. Obviously, we have the standard loadout for the Japanese and the Americans. They've got their battleships, their destroyers, their cruisers, and the aircraft carrier. No premium, as far as I'm aware, of an aircraft carrier, unless there's something they're keeping really, really tight-lipped on. So that's good. We know the aircraft carriers they're going to work with. And it's not that bad. I think the closer you get to 8, 9, and 10, the worse the Americans look. Early tier, 4, 5, maybe 6, the Americans are as good or maybe even better aircraft-wise. So it could be pretty balanced in that regard. Now, is that going to actually be a consistent staple of it? Well, not on North America. North Americans do not like the aircraft carrier. I don't blame them. The American aircraft carrier line is garbage. If your nation had a garbage line associated with this unique aircraft, or this unique class named the aircraft carrier, would you feel as enthusiastic playing it? I hear that in Asia, aircraft carriers are played a lot. That makes sense because, let's face it, the Japanese, that's one thing that they did very, very well, and they can hang their hat on, and they did a great job creating the Japanese aircraft carriers for this game. They didn't do a good job for the Americans, and I think that's pretty plain when you look at just how dominant the Japanese are. So I expect maybe a higher than average Japanese population, but not ridiculous like maybe a Tier 8 or even a Tier 7 if we were doing that for rank. So as far as AA, not as consequential as maybe it could be. The Saipan, ridiculous, right? That's basically the only American aircraft carrier that everyone's afraid of. And I think the Tier 4 or Tier 5, but that's non-manual, so who cares about that? So let's look at the battleship. The battleships, of course, we have the Fuso, the Mutsu, the New Mexico, the Arizona, the Bayan, the Warspite, the Dunkirk. Dunkirk's kind of weird. Mutsu, massive guns, low armor compared to the guns themselves. 410, that might be way too much, right? If it's only fighting Tier 6s, having 410 might be an issue shooting some cruisers. You're just going to overpin so much, probably. That's my guess. So maybe that's not the right battleship if you go that. Well, then we get the New Mexico, the Warspite, the Bayan, and the Arizona. I think the Warspite might end up being the best one, just because it's got a larger than average caliber. Well, does it really at this tier now? Is it just average at this point? Either way, the faster turret traverse feels pretty good. It's got a lot of healing potential. I don't really see a lot of burning scenarios because, let's face it, nobody wants to play as a cruiser in competitive. And they certainly don't want to be spotted long enough to keep firing. And there's no smoke for themselves. They can't do like the Kutuzov or the Belfast where they can hide in it, you know. There's only the Perth that can sling the fire and sit in the smoke. And I don't think the Perth's good enough for that. And speaking of cruisers, we've got the Alba, the Cleveland, Badioni. We've got the Nuremberg, recently buffed, Leander, Duca. We've got the French one, the La Gazinière, and then we have the Degrassi. If the Degrassi comes out before ranked, it probably will. It's been a while since it's actually been available for super testers and regular players. I don't really see the French being extremely, you know, cool or sexy. Leander's probably going to get played just because you could sit in the smoke. If I remember correctly, it does have smoke. Yes, it does. It does have smoke. So it'll probably see played just because of the smoke. Oh yeah, the Grafspee. It's and the Molotov. You know, I've heard that people are really afraid of the Molotov because it's so fragile and you can't stealth fire. It still has tier 9 guns. That's going to be really nice. If you could get in a position to fire on the target and not be the target of desire for them, well, you're going to do tons of damage. But I do really like the Nuremberg and the Badioni. Cleveland's a weird beast. If we get into close range combat, oh yeah, Cleveland's cool. But long range, oh, it's a piece of crap. The shell arc is awful. It's just awful. Alba's pretty average, I would say. That's not bad. I'm just stating a fact. So I'm thinking maybe Badioni, Nuremberg, Leander. Those seem to be the go-to cruisers, in my opinion. Leander for smoke. The Nuremberg, recently buffed. It does feel pretty nice to have the 360 turret. And then the Badioni, probably the easiest long-range cruiser to use. I would say the Molotov, but I keep hearing that it's just so fragile, so fragile, so fragile. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see as it comes. And then, finally, the destroyers. There's the Fubuki. We've got the Shinoname. We have the Farragut. We have, I believe, the Hatsu. Is the Hatsu tier 6? Not that you would use the Hatsu. Yes, the Hatsu's tier 6. Ugh. Hatsuharu, tier 6. You also got the Gnevny. Ernst. Also the Gallant, but the Gallant's not out. It's out for me, not out for you. Usually what happens is they don't let us play those for ranked play, which is fair. I wouldn't do it anyway. That would be sort of unfair. Anshan and the Gnevny, basically the same ship. They're long range. You really don't want to use a Soviet destroyer that doesn't have torpedoes that can actually get out. You know, 4 kilometers is too short. So maybe that's disqualifying them if they can't get to 8 kilometers. I believe the Gnevny can, though. Can it get 8? No! Gnevny has 4. Okay. Let's look at the Anshan. Anshan can have 8. Alright. Well, maybe you take the Anshan over the Gnevny just because of that one simple fact. But for me, personally, I really like the German. It can outrange its concealment. It's got good guns. It's got fair concealment under smoke. Yeah, it doesn't last the longest, but it can be pretty effective. And I believe the Ernst is the one where the B-hole gives you hydroacoustic. Now, hydroacoustic can be really, really useful for many different things. Absolutely blowing up the enemy destroyers or detecting torpedoes going around islands. So I want to see how the Ernst goes. Farragut's okay. It's not crazy. It's not poor. The problem with the Farragut is short range torpedo systems. 6.4, very difficult to use, very difficult. Shinoname, interesting. It's got alpha because it's got that extra gun turret that is more reminiscent of like a tier 8, but we have it at tier 6, so it could be pretty effective at anti-destroyer work. Plus it's got 8-kilometer range torpedoes, which is appreciated. Then we got the Fubuki. Fubuki has 10-kilometer range torpedoes. It doesn't have the same gun systems as the Shinoname. Is 10 better than 8? Is it noticeable? Well, I don't know. I'm definitely going to notice the Alpha Strike. So, my initial reaction is maybe the Anshan, Ernst, and the Shinoname. If you have those, of course. I've got to do a little bit more research on this, and speaking of research, there is probably going to be extra content created just for that, where we look at a lot of the ships that will be relevant for ranked play. I'll be talking about a couple of it, obviously. My goal is to see the meta and try and develop a strategy that counters it as universally as I can. In the last season, I chose to go a Leningrad. Also, I think what else? Let's check it out. I don't even remember what I did for tier 7. So I chose to go Leningrad, Mahan, Shiratsuyu. I did play a little bit of Belfast just because the Scharnhorst was funny. Because people would be like, oh, you're supposed to stay in the back. No, 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 I'm going to be moving forward. Sims was also relevant. But I just don't think it's going to be that play style whenever we reach the tier 6 bracket. I want to believe, maybe my ignorant, tiny, childlike fantasy, I want to believe that players do not want to settle for a boring smoke meta. I really want to believe that. And hopefully we'll make it happen where that isn't the valid tactic. So I hope you're excited for rank season. If you're into it, the rewards will probably be the same, where as you get closer to rank 1, you'll get access to those special modules that 98% of them are a piece of crap. But you could get speed boost out of it, and everyone likes speed boost. And plus the flag, so I always look at it like this. Ranked season should not be stressful. Look at ranked season as an opportunity to gain a couple resources that you wouldn't normally gain. If you find that it's getting difficult and stressful, bail out on it. Don't ruin your time. Your time is more valuable than anything else you have in this world. So don't play ranked, don't keep grinding it and get frustrated. However, I don't think that tier 6 is going to be as frustrating as tier 7 was. It doesn't have as many cheesy ships. Not to say that you might run into a super cheese ship, but in general, tier 6 is much more balanced, in my opinion, than tier 7. We'll have to see if that holds true. Either way, I will have to participate in it. I'm going to help you out as much as I can. I hope you enjoy this content. I can't wait to actually get my hands on players in rank season so I can really confirm their tendencies. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.